Good morning. So this morning I've got the treat of being joined by Dave, James and Justin Blake. And both Dave and Justin are former podiatrists, former podiatry, well I think they're both still registered as podiatrists, but former podiatry clinic owners and healthcare business mentors. So welcome Dave and Justin. Thank you very much. It's a treat to have you both here at the same time.
Morning.
Rightio. So the health of healthcare businesses is what we're going to be talking about today, and very particularly the financial health of healthcare businesses. Considering what roles we're going to play in the future and what responsibilities clinic owners need to be taking with regards to the financial health of their clinic at the moment, even if it's simply acknowledging that it is unhealthy and that they need to do something about it. So Dave, let me ask you first of all, so for in your experience and with the clinicians and clinic owners that you're working with at the moment, what are you experiencing in terms of financial awareness of the health of their business right now? Have people acknowledged and accepted and understood their current cash flow and how important it is to get really lean, or is there still a terror to look at a spreadsheet or open a bank account?
I think it's a mix. It's a big mix, and there are some people who are really financially astute and know their numbers and have done and work everything out. There are some people who've kind of just been floating along, knowing that enough money's coming in to cover the outgoings, but other than that, tend to just kind of pass it off to their accountant and their bookkeeper. But acceptance, probably not. I think there's a lot of people are not accepting things. I think awareness, definitely. And when people are having those conversations about, well, you know, I've got a limited company and I give myself a bit of PAYE and I do a bit of dividends. Can I be furloughed? And I work for the NHS as well. And how much of my income is from the NHS versus private practice? And people are starting to look at these things a lot more. So, yeah, there's an awareness. I don't think there's necessarily an acceptance. But certainly those people who've done the work and they know the numbers and they've already run this stuff are probably in a much better position. They're a few steps further down the line, and that will really help them. So, yeah, we're getting there, but it's definitely a mix.
So, Justin, I know from previous conversations you've shared some storms that you've ridden out as a clinic owner in the past, and and you're a sailor too. So, if this is just another storm that we've all hit, yes, what are the things that clinicians and clinic owners should be looking at right now if they've become aware there's a financial problem and the situation isn't okay? What is it they need to be facing and being honest with?
Well, yeah, I mean, the storm will pass. It's looking like it's probably going to take a little bit longer to pass now than we previously thought. And what people should be really looking at is they don't want to sit around and do nothing now, and actually, we want to be able to sort of come out this on a slightly upward trend. We don't want to be sitting around and just worrying isn't going to get you anywhere. We need to be sort of proactive. I mean, it's all about sort of taking a lead. I mean, the leadership to be able to sort of change your plan as you go along, as things continue to sort of develop. And yeah, I mean, back to how I used to run a practice. We were saying earlier, box, or to put into the bank on a Friday, and you're just about covering your expenses. I mean, that's not the way to sort of run the business. You definitely need to have just very, very basic accounting. A small spreadsheet, a small ledger book, just what's coming in and what needs to go out. And I'm sure, like I have and everybody else has, all your financial outgoings now have been really, really sort of cut back. And of course, you don't have to. Now you get to see what you were possibly wasting some money on before.
And I think also having the confidence to negotiate on what's left. So you've cut back, hopefully, as lean as you possibly can. Hopefully you've got a very basic spreadsheet set up that shows what income is still coming in, perhaps from any old debt, or if you're doing any telehealth or online services. But also those remaining overheads, having telephoned the IT providers, having telephoned the telephone provider and stripped everything, not having had the confidence to negotiate to see what they can do for you. I know I did that with our phone bill because I want to keep the phone line live. I got it down to less than a third of what we're usually paying because they want to keep our customer, and it's going to cost more to reinstall a phone line. Mm-hmm. So have that confidence to pick up the phone and negotiate really hard on what is what's still left on your outgoings.
And also question as well whether you really need it, because that's the first thing. I remember when I was in practice, I had loads of toys. I had loads of things which cost me money, which I convinced myself I needed. But actually, in reality, could I have lived without them? Absolutely. You know, we could all live without stuff at the moment, but it's having the thought to actually go, do I need it, and get rid of it before you then go and have those negotiations as well.
So what we're saying then, that ideally clinic owners have got a cash flow forecast at the moment for the current situation, so they can see each day, each week and each month for the coming months exactly what they can anticipate coming in. And even if that's nothing, it's better that they're honest and that nothing's written there than they're in denial. And exactly what is going out, so they can see if they're in a negative cash flow situation, at what point they will go bankrupt and how long they can survive, so that they can, again, make decisions and take action based on that. So if we're going to be really honest and really help our clinic owners that we converse with, we need to bring up the fact that some clinicians in some clinics will face bankruptcy because they won't have enough cash to continue to support the overheads that they have at the moment. Mm-hmm. If you were both still clinic owners and you could see that by, I don't know, say mid-June, you were going to be bankrupt, what actions would you be taking right now? Put on the spot here.
That's a really good question, isn't it? Because not being a clinic owner gives me that little buffer of kind of, I can play out lots of thoughts in my head. But if I was still in clinic and I knew I was going to go bankrupt at that point, I'd be asking some serious questions about what I want my business to look like. And if my business is going to go past that point, can I take a loan to cover the amount of money I need, which is an option? Or do I need to really find a way of pivoting my business now to prevent myself from going bankrupt? Whether that's telehealth consultations, whether that's community initiatives, which I know we talked about before we started recording, whether it's product sales, whether it's, there's something in there which maybe could help to slow that process down, or at least, take it forward. So maybe with the cash flow, I'm not going to go bankrupt in June. It's going to be July, or it's going to be September, or it's going to be October, just to give that little bit of a buffer. But it's a really, really good question. And I think there's maybe a temptation to say, you know what, I'm going to close everything down now, and I'm going to stop practicing, and then I will look at practicing with a different model further down the line. But yeah, it's a really difficult question.
It is
a really difficult question.
I mean, that may be the option, is that the current business wasn't viable anyway, and that you need a complete overhaul and a complete relook at how you're providing your practice, and maybe you need to do something else, go and work for somebody else.
I wonder if smaller clinics might merge, because the overheads of there's lots and lots of little clinics, one-man bands, who all have an overhead that could actually be shared, and that one of the solutions might be to actually pick up the phone to your other local clinics and see if you can all merge under one roof.
That's a really interesting one as well. I know I had a conversation with an accountant last week, and we were talking about the idea that if you've got two clinic owners with limited companies really, really close to each other, they both furlough themselves, and then what they do is they kind of swap over and see each other's patients, because they then go and work as an associate for other clinics. And the accountant said, well, actually, that's potentially okay to do, because then you're going self-employed, but you're working for someone else. But I think those kind of collaborations make perfect sense. If you have a business which has got good cash flow, can survive this really, really well, and maybe wants to look at taking on another clinic to increase clinical size over time, it's probably a good opportunity to do that. Even though it's still an uncertain time, it's still a good opportunity to look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely going to be and now's the time to have a look at really the sort of the business sort of fundamentals, and sort of sit down and plan things out, how you want. I never started a business before knowing what I wanted to get out from it, what lifestyle it gave me, what hours I wanted to do, what sort of things. It was just like throw up the sign and away you go. And you didn't plan that. If you don't know what you want from it, how are you going to build it so that it works for what you want it to give you?
So what we're describing there is have the honesty, have the financial honesty, really open the bank account, do that cash flow forecast, get as lean as you can, but know the point at which you have a real problem in the future. And then, let's say it is mid-June, then you have the time to really think about what is your purpose, what is it you want from the business, and what's the contribution you want to be making, and then redesigning how you deliver that. Because what the other thing is, it's not just whilst everybody's shut that there's a problem. It's going to be that first quarter, that first 6 months of getting the machine moving again, and how lean you're going to need to be able to be in then, and responsive you're going to be able to be to your community's needs and your team's needs as well.
I think there's going to be some there's going to be some parts, certainly of podiatry, some aspects of it which are going to be very full on at the beginning. That will literally be like a light switch in a bright room switching on. But I don't know what that'll be. Maybe that'll be the home visit component for people over 70 who've been isolated and have got foot problems. Maybe it will be, people with biomechanical problems because they've suddenly gone back to exercise. There's many things to look at, but I think parts of it will switch back on very, very quickly. And my thoughts around that is, well, how can a practitioner who's been not relaxing, but has been in a very sort of low ticking over state for that time, suddenly switch it back on? Because that's going to be hard work. But I think we're going to get a mix. I think we're going to get some parts which are going to switch on very quickly, and some parts which are going to take that time to grow.
And but again, there's also going to be the group of patients who aren't going to come back again, and that's going to be a different conversation that we're going to have with them. They're not going to want to be in a clinical setting with larger groups of people.
Yeah, and that means the home visit component could get quite interesting. I also think there's the other flip side to this is there'll be a lot of people who have got used to the regularity of treatment, and suddenly that regularity is gone. And me as a patient with a history of ulceration, there's worries in the back of my mind. I could treat my own feet not as well as the person who treats my feet for me, so I have worries about that. But you'll have these people who come back and go, now I understand how you help me, now I understand the difference you make, and I value you more, and probably I'm willing to pay you a bit more as well. So I think there's a good opportunity to think about how you balance fees as well at the end of this.
Of course, that's going to be another conversation with the way that the economy is. Are people then going to be wanting to sort of put up their fees and again charge more for their practice? It's going to make it even more of having that ongoing conversation with themselves. Yeah. What am I worth, and what should I be charging?
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you portray that in your marketing as well? And yeah, there's a whole switch. It's almost a blank slate for a lot of people, which is quite exciting in a way. And I know for a lot of people it won't feel exciting at the moment, but if you look past where we are now and think, what can you create and what can you build 4 or 5 months down the line, and you could, any ideas, any of the most bonkers ideas you've ever had about your clinic, you could be thinking about doing now. Mm-hmm. Really exciting time for that potentially.
Yes,
I think it is if we can get the honesty in terms of know your numbers, even if they're not healthy right now. If you know them, then right, you can start doing something about it. And you then also have the time. We have the luxury of this gift of this time right now to be redesigning and recreating what we want on the other side, and to be using it rather than suddenly doors are open again and you haven't actually used this time. And even if that's, well,
it'll be
a day.
People don't use this time to do the things they could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just go back to doing the same things that they were doing before.
Yeah.
It's definitely the way that practices need to sort of pivot. But I think trying to get any income in now at the moment, again, it is difficult if you're furlonged and you can't work. But that's quite a good idea. You have to go and work for somebody, see somebody else's patients and have them pay you. But you're probably not. You're not going to be, as long as you come out of this, that you're not bust. That you're coming out as just like cost neutral, that it hasn't cost you anything. You certainly, it'd be quite a brave person to be taking on loans now just to
Yeah.
just to keep a business,
Yeah.
you know, afloat.
I really agree. I totally agree that now you should be making better business decisions and taking on a loan, because that's going to have to be repaid in an uncertainty.
You know, so the world and his wife is doing telehealth at the moment, and video consults, and I think it's going to have been certainly easier for certain clinics who were already in touch with their patients and already, you know, had email lists and regular newsletters. They'll be able to more transition now. And, you know, telehealth should be just seen as just another treatment option. You know, you've got rehab, you've got orthotics, you've got, you know, the back classes, and now we have telehealth, and it should be just another treatment option in your quiver. I mean, they've interviewed that Pilates lady who was already just sort of had transitioned to that sort of that type of model. You know, it can be done, and it's you know, and it saves, it also, you know, it saves people time when you sort of think about the time that people have to take to come to clinics. Take time off work, take evening off, get the kids looked after. I mean, it's just, you know, online consults are just suit people who don't have the time to sort of come to your sort of clinic. So you maybe need to see them when clinics go back open again. See them walk a couple of times online. Maybe see them once in the clinic, and then sort of the ongoing program that you have for them. Do that online. So telehealth should just be another tool. You know, it's going to be the new reality for a lot of clinics. And
yeah, there's a really good business model in telehealth for, you know, you have a practice of clinicians all over the world who are the specialists in what they do. And a patient will have a choice of coming along, having a telehealth consultation with somebody in California or Canada or Australia who is the expert in that problem, or they've got their local practitioner who's 10 minutes drive down the road, who can probably help them and make them better, but it might not be as quick. And people have that decision, that choice to make. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the telehealth works. And I think you're right. Some people will transition their whole model to it. Other people, it will just be, biomechanics, orthotics, nail surgery, telehealth.
Yes, but I think definitely the practices who have kept in touch with and are just, you know, in contact with the patients, because if a patient was in a plan of care, you know, on a course of treatment with you, all of a sudden you've just cancelled them, you know, and then it's like, well, then you haven't been in touch with them since. Even if somebody was coming in for a verruca treatment, you saw them, you know, the day after St. Patrick's Day, and you had a plan in place, and I'm going to see you next week, and we're going to treat you this, and then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 days later, you cancel them, and you haven't spoken to them since. That person still has that problem.
Yeah.
You need to, hello, how's you getting on? Well, I know you can't come in to see me, but, you know, you can get the pad from the chemist, or you can get this. This is what you can do at home until we get back. And if you haven't phoned them up and spoken to them, all that trust and all that worry that they had before they came to see you and made the decision to come to see you, that's going to be lost, and they're going to go somewhere else. So because somebody's decision to come to see you in your clinic before all this started was they were worried, was it going to hurt, and how much it was going to cost, and would I be able to get childcare somebody to look after while I went to the clinic, and all these things had to be put in place before they actually picked up the phone and made that appointment on the 18th of March. And now all of a sudden that's all gone to shit. And that person hasn't even been phoned back to just check up how you've been getting on. And but the same would be for one of Kate's rehab sort of patients. If you had a program in place and they're 3-4 weeks in, and all of a sudden, sorry, your appointment's cancelled. You know, well, what's next? And but now we have the option of a video consult that we can continue on with that. Would you like to take that up? And again, it's the same way as that rehab class isn't for all patients, and you know that program of treatment isn't for all those patients. But telehealth may be suitable for them. So you know, it's not a fix-all for everything.
Thing is as well, while it's not a financial strategy particularly, other than bringing in cash revenue, the actual longer term strategy of know, like and trust, which means that people are going to come back to you and pay you money 3-4 months down the line because of that loyalty is really good. And anything which can help to bring you a big amount of cash flow at that end point is great. And what's interesting as well, I was having a conversation with somebody recently about ways you could generate cash for your business now. There are ways of doing things like gift treatment of appointments in the future, and although that kind of means you get a bit of money now, maybe slightly less when it all starts up again, flattening the curve, isn't it, essentially financially? Actually being able to flatten that curve financially makes a big difference as well. If it stops you from bankruptcy, then it's exploring everything.
It's doing all those things.
So what we're saying in conclusion then is the critical steps are being honest right now. If you haven't yet opened your bank account, if you haven't yet done a cash flow forecast, just for God's sake, do it. Face it. Just face whatever it is that it says, because if you're facing it, then you can do something about it. You're just opening your bank account, plugging in where you're currently at, what revenue you think you might have got coming in, or even if it's zero, not coming in, what all the expenses are, and making sure you negotiate and get those expenses as lean as possible. As like Dave said, question how many gadgets you really need. Then Justin's really emphasizing the importance of keeping in touch with your database, even if it's just the odd email, just keeping in touch, letting them know that you're still there.
If you don't have emails, just phone them.
Just keep
phone them. Go in, even if you're on paper records, go in, go back through the book. Who was in over the last 3 or 4 weeks? How are you getting on? A quick call. Most of them probably won't even answer, as long as you leave a message.
And then you can also have, even if your spreadsheets are showing that yes, at some point in the future, you might well be going bankrupt because you can't support the negative cash flow situation. Right, well, you're in a creative situation. See it as a positive opportunity. You have to create the future, to identify what you want your clinic's purpose to be and your clinic's purpose to be. What are the problems that your clinic is trying to solve for your community? And then redesign what it is that you're going to be offering, or what it is you're going to be retaining. And then I'm going to come back to another spreadsheet. Once you've done all of that and you've had the creative inspiration, you need to make it into a financial forecast, because that first quarter, that first 6 months could be highs and lows all over the place. So you've got to put in on your forecast what the reopen is going to perhaps be like, with a rationale or a reason as best as you can behind each of the numbers that you're plugging in, so that you've made yourself as financially reasoned as possible.
A bit more financial literacy, perhaps. But yes, definitely, you want to be hitting the ground running. And again, it's back to the opportunity now that you could be doing all those things that you saw other clinics do and thought it were a great idea. Now's the time to, 2 or 3 different things. To just focus on 2 or 3 different things that you can sort of change at the moment now, and work on them.
And I think it's really reassuring to keep bringing this back to the body, because as clinicians, we know the client that's just keeping on walking for an hour a day at the moment, their health is going to be way, way better than the person that sat on the sofa the entire time. So even if you're just working an hour a day on your business, it's going to be in a way, way healthier position on the other side of this than if you've done nothing. There's going to be the clinics that are going to still just flatline, and then there's other clinics that are going to rise up.
There's also it's that thought as well around the kind of the compounding. If you do that little bit each day, it compounds over time. Whereas people will think, well, actually, if I don't do anything, then it'll be fine as well. It will just kind of flatline. And actually, what happens is it does that. It actually goes and drops down. So yeah, it is important to do stuff each day. And I appreciate that. There's been some stuff going around on social media where people are saying, well, if you haven't learned a new skill or learned to play an instrument during the corona crisis, that you haven't used your time properly. And actually, there are some people who are still in that really kind of acute phase of grief, and they haven't got to acceptance. They're still rallying against it, who won't be able to do that. I think it's being aware of that, it's being sympathetic to that. And just giving people the time. Some people are ready to get stuck in and do stuff. Some people won't be for another couple of weeks. Everyone's in different places. So, but yeah, it's interesting times.
Thank you both very, very much.
Very welcome.
For your time. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
All the best.